What is good, everyone? Welcome into the FAA Managers Association podcast. My name is Keith Jackson, your Director for Membership Education. It's been a while since we've been on the YouTube channel. We are back. In this one, we are going to be recapping what happened at our convention. Yes, it happened. It happened in October. We did not cancel despite Milton. We pressed on. And joining me are two very awesome, hardworking people that made the whole thing come together. Miss Andy Stapleton, she is our FAAMA convention chair, and Mr. Mark DePlasco, our Director for Corporate Relations. Andy, how we doing?
Doing great, Keith. How are you?
I'm good. Mark, how you been?
Oh, everything's great. Good to see you,
Yep.
Keith.
For those of you that don't know, Mark stuck out at our convention a lot longer than I thought he should have, considering he lived in Tampa. So glad to know that everything ended up being good for you, my friend. And
Yep.
that
Just a little
was
roof damage. That's all.
And that's good because we didn't know what was happening until really Saturday into Sunday as we were all traveling, going, oh wow, and what was going to be 4 days of rain turned into 2-3 awesome days, followed by one bad day. So, Mark, glad to hear everything is going good for you. And let's just sort of jump into that. We're going to talk about what we did at our convention. Again, we didn't cancel. We pressed on. You had Andy. I'll let you start with your team. They put on one awesome show.
All right. Well, thank you, Keith. Really, I mean, we want to start with Beth and Tony Cox, but I'll let Mark talk about them. But then I have Bo Watts. I had the three Sergeant at Arms, which is Daniel Stone, David Soul, and Alex Coy. A great team of Sergeant at Arms that we have. And of course, Mr. Kyle Glass, who does our mics. And of course, Dave Horton, who is our AV expert that makes us look and sound great. So kudos to all the guys that work behind the curtains.
Yeah, and behind that curtain, that team is there. They are there working. And Mark, yes, for the Cox team, please.
Yeah, no, it takes a village, and Andy does a great job of keeping us all straight and keeping us on schedule and running it. You know, we got Hitch, who helped us with the script because that's so important. And we have the Cox family. They bring down many of their kids, plus employees of Hourglass, and Tony and Mark Sneed are integral to our corporate relations sponsorship, putting those together and organizing the corporates and billing them. That's the most important part. So we get that money to run our show. It was just a great event. You know, only issue was that silly storm, but I think everybody had fun writing it. Those that stayed and wrote it out in Orlando, probably the safest place to be in that storm was at Disney World. So very happy with the outcome.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were. I mean, I heard nothing but good stuff from everyone. And yes, if you are in Florida with a hurricane, the folks at Disney definitely came through, and particularly for the kids that were there, going down in the lobby at the beach club, they were always doing something. Yeah, kudos to them. And speaking of attendees, Andy, we had, I think it's safe to say, record-breaking attendance, registered attendance this year.
Yeah, so thanks to Mark and Tony. Yes, over 500, close to 526 attendees had registered. And by Sunday, we had a little over 300 already at the facility. So it was going to be a great time with that amount of people. It was great.
Yep. And Mark, our corporates, despite everything too, they came in force. And I think we even didn't have space for everybody, if I remember right.
Yeah, we actually sold out all the booths, and then the just a handful of corporates did not venture down. But we had so many booths that it actually worked out in our favor because we then could move some booths around, and you didn't see any dead spots. So all in all, considering the storm and the forecast, we were very lucky.
Yep. And let's keep on to our corporates, because one question I have heard from people, it's why are they there? What is it in for them? You know, what do our corporate sponsors who give us, all the exposure they can, what do they get out of this?
Oh, what they get out of this is access to FAA managers, both tech ops and air traffic, and other FAA managers from different organizations in the ATO and outside of the ATO. It's about access. It's about talking to managers, find out where their pain points are, talk to them about things that they're developing or thinking of developing, and getting their input on how they can improve their product, or maybe how they could develop a product that is needed somewhere in the ATO and the FAA. So there's no better way to get in front of over 200 of our delegates, which are our members, and then the other corporate. They get to talk to their competition, their partners. So all in all, it's a great event for everybody. And then our managers get to talk to folks that they don't normally get to talk to every day. They get to talk to the corporates and find out what they're building, what they're designing, what they're thinking about, and give them some input. And then, not even to mention, Tim Arell, kudos to Mr. Arell for bringing all of his VPs down to the show. They were sprinkled throughout the week, and they had great presentations. And that was a big selling point for a lot of the corporates. And then the last thing I'll say about that is Tony Cox came up with this idea about mimicking what we did in speed mentoring, and we called it speed dating for corporates. And the corporates got an opportunity to spend a few minutes in rounds with each of the vice presidents, including Tim. And that was a huge success. I heard back from many different corporates at the Air Traffic Control Association conference that I attended a week and a half ago, and they loved it, and they want to see it happen again. So that was all Tony. I wish I could say that was my idea. It was all Tony, and it was a huge success. So
No, that's great, because one would think our corporates actually have access to FAA leadership
no.
more on a regular basis, but that clearly doesn't happen anymore. Or if it did,
Well,
it
they do
doesn't.
have access. I mean, our FAA leadership is very open, and will talk to corporates, but not in such an intimate setting where a corporate can walk up to their booths, or we did the corporate speed dating. I mean, they just don't get that kind of intimate access.
Got it. And speaking of the speed dating, let's jump into some of the stuff that goes on at our convention. Andy, that is honestly one of the things that we started doing, I think, in Vegas when we were coming out of COVID. I remember very vividly that we were launching, or if it had been going on, that speed dating concept. So what does that do for our delegates and managers that go there? What does that do for them?
Well, first of all, again, access, but not only that, but to find out what it is that you want. What is your goal? And one of those people in there might be the one that helps you get there. Your next job is in that convention hall. I always say that. But we send out this sign-ups in August. You can sign up. I usually choose someone who's never done it before, but if I don't have a lot of first timers, I will pick up a second timer. But again, I picked 10, and Tim has so graciously brought all of his VPs last time. I'm hoping he does the same. And it'll be 10 against 10, and they get about 3.5 minutes with each person. I have Greg Bean that helps me on the timing, and we have a good time. But it's great for those to connect to the people that normally would not ever see.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
I totally agree, Andy.
And so let's also, another thing with our convention that we do every year is we are always on the lookout for keynote speakers that can bring some really awesome value and training to our membership. And Colonel Dan Rooney from Folds of Honor was our first keynote speaker of that convention, and that was a very inspiring, very awesome show. Like, I was honestly left for words. And when you get a standing ovation from the membership too, that tells you something there. Andy, go ahead with him.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, actually, I can't take credit for that. That was actually Greg Bean. Greg Bean and I were brainstorming about speakers, which you will get to do this time with us, Keith. It's like, you just have to start finding a list of people, going through and researching them, see if they fit. Mark is always involved. Like when we go to interview these people, we're there as a team. We want to make sure they really fit with us, And but Greg came up with this mainly because of our golf tournament in April, because we donate to Folds of Honor. We said, well, what perfect way but to have the main guy there, right? So it turned out very well, and he was awesome. Of course, it's always great to have a fighter pilot up there on stage, so it was great.
Yeah, it
Yeah, and
absolutely was.
I got some feedback from my corporates. In fact, the folks at Collins Aerospace want a copy of his presentation because they want to use it and give it to actually their children and also their employees, because it was very inspirational. And then a shout out to Greg Beam, because
Yes,
that is the most unsung, quiet hero we have in our organization in FAAMA. Director of Administration. Uh, that's just a very small part of what he does. He's involved in corporate, in convention, in setup, in finding speakers. I mean, big shout out to Greg. Just a just
absolutely.
a huge contributor to our association.
Yeah, particularly with what he does when his day job with FAA security and how often he's traveling, how often he's on the move. Trust me, this year was a very, very interesting, heavy loaded work
Yep.
year for him, because
Yeah,
with
yeah,
anytime you get into a presidential election cycle, you're covering 2 or 3, you're covering a lot. So yeah, kudos to him, seriously.
huge.
And yeah, and then we had some fun stuff at our convention when we were done with our normal hours. We had a nice night in Epcot for a fireworks show and a dessert bar. We were able to get to a dance hall, which was great, particularly with, that is just so much fun. And we talk about networking, getting a chance to just, you don't know who you run into, but when you see these VPs and everyone there, just you see them in a different light, and it's really awesome. It really is, frankly, so much fun to see them, in
Yeah,
that light.
And it's
agree.
very relaxing. It's a completely different atmosphere. Everyone's relaxed. You can just have a conversation, and it's really great.
Yep, until that phone rings, and then of course you see it like, oh, there's work. They are always on the phone, always on call. So yeah, we've said it again, Tim. Thank you so much for bringing your team. It really is it's a very awesome experience seeing him there with all the VPs. And yeah, that's, if you weren't able to make it, and we know people had to leave again, Hurricane Milton really sort of, put a very interesting spin on things, but we had essentially 3 days where we were able to get our convention done, budgets passed and everything. We're going to be in Vegas this coming year. So Andy, we can give a little bit of information on registration dates and just some of the activities we do in Vegas.
Certainly. So, first of all, the registration should be opened about the last week of January. It will open at $499 for registration. We'll get into all those kind of things at a later time. But the dates are October 12th through the 16th in Henderson, which is Green Valley Ranch. It's about an 8-minute Uber ride from the airport, very easy to get to. Um, the difference between like the Disney and the Green Valley Ranch is Sunday would be the same. We'll have a president's reception, but it'll be outside or along the pool area. But Monday is the difference. We will have Monday Night Football. So bring your favorite team jersey and join us for Monday Night Football. That also will be out near the pool. And then Tuesday, more likely, it'll be the RD dinners. And then Wednesday will be our awards celebration. No matter what that is, it'll probably be Wednesday. But, we have to be flexible. Could be Tuesday if they give us a better deal. So, but we'll have more things ironed out closer to that time.
Perfect. Yep. And Andy said it best. We're going to have another show dedicated to what we're looking at in October, and sometime next year we'll jump on the show again, and we'll fill our memberships in with all that. Thanks again, Mark, Andy, and the aforementioned Greg Bean. You guys put on one awesome show. Mark, any final thoughts before we call it a wrap?
No, I accept that. I talked to a lot of the corporate sponsors at my ATCA show, the Air Traffic Control Association convention in DC a week and a half ago, and they're ready to come back. They're ready to engage again. And I actually got, I think, 2 or 3 additional corporate sponsors. So there were folks that wanted to get to me before we sold out, because they were trying to get there last year, or I'm sorry, this year, and couldn't because we sold all the booths. So they wanted to book it now, and I did that. So
That's
can't wait for Vegas. And no, I can guarantee you there won't be a hurricane. That I can guarantee.
If there's a hurricane in the desert, then
Yeah,
that's it.
we've
There's
got bigger
something going.
problems.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And Andy, any final words you wanted to say?
No, just looking forward to Vegas. Of course, happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah.
Enjoy
Have a
the
great
rest of the
Thanksgiving.
break because work starts here about the end of January.
Right. Yeah. You get and for everyone here, my final thoughts will be this. The team that put this show on, they get going in January, and then it is a very long, very intense process. You think about every small detail that comes down, as you heard, from scripts, our corporates, budgeting. Andy and I will get into all of that to give you a more better idea of what goes on in planning a show and putting it on. So look forward to that. Don't know exactly when, but it will be in early 2025. The next time you see me, I'm going to have Mr. Ron Arantano from the Normandy Group. He's our FAAMA Executive Director. We are going to be diving in to 2024, what we did, what we accomplished, and maybe what is to come for FAAMA from our advocating points. So Mark, Andy, thank you so much for joining. Until we see each other again, everyone, I'm Keith Jackson. Adios.